Shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone and Ruwell. Peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. News in the gospel, broad, lifting up the standard of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the Spirit. It says the resurgence of HIV, which the HIV stands for the human immunodeficiency virus, which is basically a virus that attacks the body's immune system. It attacks the T cell count. And once your white blood cells are pretty much depleted, you pretty much die because your white blood cells is what fights off infections. Autoimmune diseases tends to have the body to turn on itself and kills off white blood cells, and you pretty much you're next to through. But this is a lesson through the Spirit. It says the resurgence of HIV, as there was 18,000 new cases. 18,000 new cases, I believe, like was it in Philly, if I'm not mistaken? And this shit is popping back up, man. It really ain't really went nowhere. But at the same time, you got to understand that these women are very promiscuous. Out here fucking every Tom, Dick, and Harpo and sharing needles. And a lot of it is among drug use and sharing needles and homosexual men. And, a lot of these women, they sleep with homosexual men as well, which adds insult to injury. So, your brothers out there, you got to be careful with these so-called black women, because these black women, man, they oftentimes have homosexual friends or gay friends. And what happens is that they will grow an attachment to that dude because he's one of the girls, of course, And what happens is they end up having sex with the dude, and then she'll give the nigga, or the nigga give her HIV, and then she'll go home and sleep with her husband or her boyfriend and contract it to him. So this is a plague, okay, that the Most High is bringing back in the earth. And the scriptures goes into it, man, about particular pestilence and diseases that was not necessarily mentioned in the scriptures, but the scriptures say that. All the plagues that were not written in the book will be added into you, roughly paraphrasing. But also, too, we was in that pandemic just a few years back, and a lot of people took the three-pointer. They shot the J. And it came out that a lot of people was diagnosed with this autoimmune deficiency syndrome, this ordeal. They called it VAIDS, if that make any sense. All right, so this is a video here, and also I got an article that I want to go into. And of course, we got the precepts, but this is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai bringing these plagues back in the earth, okay? Because we know that this particular ordeal was man-made, and you got this guy by the name of Dr. Anthony Fauci, which is a progenitor of this particular pestilence. This is why the scriptures refer to this man death and hell, because he creates nothing but destruction in his path, man. Okay, and Esau is on a war campaign to do away with you tribes, man. And this is why it disproportionately affects our people at a higher rate than any other people, man. So with that being said, I'm gonna play this video. It's 30 minutes, but we're not gonna play all of it, but we're gonna play a couple of minutes of it, because it was one chick breaking it down on how she slept with 3 dudes, and she got mad because the dude that ghosted her ass was the one she believed they gave it to. But wait a minute, you were dealing with 3 different men, so how the hell you gonna ridicule somebody? Even if they did give it to you, it was unfortunate. But the fact about it is, you hop and ride the ride. So that's like the pot calling the kettle black, man. You just got a group of people affecting each other with this shit. And like, once again, a lot of people that shot that J, a lot of people have came down with this particular pestilence, this illness, man. So anyway, here we go.
I was HIV positive after noticing strange spots on my body and experiencing high fevers.
Over 18,000 people have HIV in Philadelphia. Over 40,000 people have HIV either in
Okay, yes, Philly, like I mentioned.
North Carolina or South Carolina. I'm not sure. It's one or the other. I'm not sure. But I just recently saw a video of a girl saying that it was recorded to have, I believe, over 200,000 people had HIV in Texas?
Damn.
It's going to be a hot summer. Scratch that. It was a hot winter. Let's get into the rise in HIV numbers that's plaguing the country right now. What it look like TV.
I am back. What it do, baby?
YouTube's own Varnell Hill.
Did ya miss me?
Your very own spokesman for the Insidians. We're inside and we're comfortable.
They're so comfortable.
And I'm back with another one. And today we're going to get into a serious topic, y'all. We're going to get into these rising HIV.
And fair use, fair use. I'm making no money off this content. Fair use, fair use. This is just, once again, informing an audience on biblical prophecy and relating the scriptures into this particular report they're reporting on through the Spirit. But other than that, fair use, fair use. I make no money off this content.
V numbers that's going all the way across the country. And first off, I want to say we are not going to shame anybody in this video because these people was brave enough to show their face to spread awareness to this cause, so maybe someone else won't get it. So we're not going to do that to them in the comments section. But the first thing that I want to stress to people in this video is that people with HIV have no specific look. You just can't point them out of a crowd.
Bro, that's scary because, you know, you don't know that you got that shit, man. You know? You don't know until years out the line when you then and dying, when your T cell count is depleted, then, you know, you get sick, you catch a cold, and then, you know, you get a common cold will take you out, man, because you don't have the necessarily white blood cells to fight it off no more. Your body totally loses the battle. Now, that it is reversible in its totality, but, you know, even then, that's like a hit and miss because if the spirit is not with you, then the spirit is just not with you. Then you pretty much fuck. You know what I'm saying? But Esau has the treatment to it. He has a treatment, but there's a cure to it. But the funny part about it is they push these infomercials about keeping people undetected. But wait a minute, man. If you could keep me undetected, just give me the fucking cure. So I could go on with my life and be done with it. But see, he's so much of a fucking devil. He won't do that, man, because he wants to keep you medicated. So therefore he can capitalize off your pain and suffering. And that's what this nigga do, man. That's why the scriptures refer to him as the devil. That he's the devil, man. You know? And the crazy part about it is, man, they'll have it and they won't even tell you. And then you had a case, I believe it was this one chick. They say she was so fucking fine. She was so bad to the point that a nigga knew she had it and they was still trying to marry this chick, man. I'm just like, wow, that's crazy, bro. The world we live in. But peep this. She don't even look like she got it. Fairly decent looking woman. But yet they're walking around with this plague in them, man. And like I said, a lot of it is coming from them that shot the J. You know, because, you know, sometimes shit can lie dormant in the body. And then it could be something that activated or some type of stress response that can activate this particular disease. And then before you know it, you know, you're full blown with it, you know. So let's go from here to the book. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play a little bit more of this and then, you know, we're going to get the point.
You would have never known at first glance or through casual conversation that any of them people was anything but normal and healthy and happy. But it only takes one night, one bad situation to meet one person that knows or maybe don't know, and your whole life can change. This lady right here is going to share her story, and you're going to see how all it takes is just one evening and your whole life can change.
I found out I was HIV positive after noticing strange spots on my body and experiencing high fevers. It all started after a night out with my friend. I remember drinking a lot more than I should have. Things got so out of hand that I completely lost control of what I was doing. My friend tried to get me home safely, but we ended up arguing and she decided to leave. I stayed at the party with some other friends and eventually met this guy. He seemed fun, and the last thing one remember was dancing and having a great time. The next morning, I woke up in his bed, confused and unable to recall most of the night. I left before he woke up, brushing it off like it was no big deal. I thought that night wouldn't have any consequences, but a month later, I started losing a lot of weight. I was constantly running a fever, had terrible headaches, and noticed strange spots appearing on my skin. That's when panic set in. Deep down, had a terrible feeling about what might have happened that night. I decided to go to the hospital.
One out of control night.
And that's crazy, man. And that's how these fucking women get down. They jump and ride the ride. And, you know, the funny part about it ain't even funny, but the scary part about it is that she probably didn't, well, she didn't use protection, because clearly protection is supposed to protect you from this type of ordeal, right? But even then, whatever is going on with her face, she must have some other shit lying dormant too. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's like I said, a lot of these dudes be down low. And then the women that deal with them just off the strength of their emotions. And then before you know it, she's full blown. And then she give it to another nigga. And then before you know it, it's a wrap.
It could change everything for you.
Fast forward it. Let's go here. We gonna get the precepts. I'm just trying to get this point out the way so I can go into the article.
Whether you understand it or not, we got it right. That's why we here. But we gotta bring these old school things tight back. That could have easily saved her life. But let's be honest, y'all. These numbers are on the rise, these HIV numbers.
STD rates in the United States are at an all-time high. These are the top 10 cities with the highest STD and HIV cases reported today. At number 10 is Jacksonville, Florida, with a total population of over 956,000 residents, 22% being African American, 54% being Caucasian, and only 9.9% being Hispanic. At number 9 is New York City, New York, with a total population of over 8.5 million residents, 22.5% being black, 34% being white, and 29% being Hispanic. At number 8 is Atlanta, Georgia, with a total population of over 500,000 residents, 56% of which are African American, 40% being Caucasian, and only 4% Hispanic. They're number 8 when it comes to not only the highest cases of HIV reported today, but also STDs in America. At number 7 is Memphis, Tennessee, with a total population of over 628,000 residents, 79% of which are African American, and only 14% Caucasian, and only 6% Hispanic. At number 6 is Baltimore, Maryland, with a total population of over 576,000 residents, 71% in which are black, 15% are Caucasian, and only 9%.
And they say the number one on our list, surprisingly, ain't Atlanta, which I'm on fence about that. You know, Atlanta, Houston, you know, they call Atlanta the Black Mecca of the world. You know, a lot of Jakes go down there and get into all sorts of wickedness, but they say Miami, Florida. The crazy part, I'm supposed to be taking a trip to Miami, hopefully in a couple of months, Lord be willing. You know, go down there, visit them brothers, you know, Lord will. And just, you know, just different scene, but that's scary, you know, because there's a lot of tourists in Miami as well. People go down there, you know, to sightsee and the beach, and a lot of times people go down there to fuck with the Latinas down there, you know what I'm saying? And that's really what a lot of people do. They go down there and they freak off with each other. So, yeah, man, this shit is getting wild. But it says HIV among black women. It says HIV in black women are disproportionately affected by HIV in the United States because the black woman is a hoe, man. Okay, I'm gonna just be straightforward. She's a fucking whore. She's rebellious. She's loudmouth. She's combative. She has no morals. She's a hoe. And a lot of times they bring damnation upon themselves because of their actions, man. And their freaking attitudes. And really, this is the Most High plaguing their ass because they're not right. And it says, according to the Centers of Disease Prevention, black women account for 50% of new HIV diagnoses among women. God damn, that's half. That's scary, man. 60% of women living with HIV, 70% of the HIV diagnoses among women in the South. So, hey, brother, that's Russian roulette. That's 50 fucking percent. So out of 10 women, 5 black women can have this shit, man. 5 of them. And now, with the stuff that they're putting in the food and the air and the stuff that's in the medicines, this is enhancing this shit, man. This is causing it to be, whatever was dormant, this is causing it to be an issue, or they're just really publicizing it now than what they were doing years ago. Because this was the boogeyman of the late 80s and 90s, which this was created in a lab by your guy, Fauci, which people seem to turn a blind eye to that. But this was an experiment created on Jake, mainly homosexual men, because they wanted to rid our population of the men, man. And it says here, stigma and discrimination, social stigma and discrimination can prevent black women from seeking testing and treatment. Social economic factors, poverty, lack of access to health care, and limited education can increase the risk of that infection. Sexual behaviors, heterosexual is the primary mode of HIV transmission among black women. Well, yeah, because that makes sense because they have to get it from somebody putting it in them, and then she affects another man, and the man may not have it, and then she'll have it and she'll give it to the man, But this is a way of them trying to say, well, that's not a nasty man's disease, meaning a man on man disease, but really it is because it affects them more. But it says they may be less likely to use condoms or practice other safe sexual behaviors. Partner factors, it says black men are also at higher risk of the infection, which increases the risk for black women in heterosexual relationships. And you see how they try to twist it? But a lot of times it's because Jake be on the down low. But they always trying to cover up the woman being a whore. Why don't you just say promiscuous lifestyles, man? Because the black woman is very promiscuous, especially if it's a nigga she like. It says, disparities. It says programs should be culturally tailored and accessible to black women. And this is a way of saying she's a whore without saying it. Community-based organizations and healthcare providers need to work with black communities to increase awareness, reduce stigma, and promote testing and treatment. And I'm trying not to say this word too much because, the algorithms get triggered when we're speaking on things. Here, everybody else can put this shit out. But the minute the Lord speak on these things, then all of a sudden, oh my God, medical misinfo, we have to give you a strike now. You be all day in court fighting to get your fucking page up, man. But it says here, black women are disproportionately affected by HIV in the United States, and understanding the factors contributing to these disparities and implementing effective prevention and treatment strategies is essential for reducing the burden of this population by increasing access to testing, promoting safe practices, and basically keeping your fucking legs closed. All right, and stop letting every nigga slide in you, and stop hanging around mo men. I'll put it to you that way. All right, because the black woman, she loves a fucking mo. She loves a dude that acts like a fucking punk, man. That's her fucking problem. So you got to be careful when you're dealing with any goddamn woman, man. And brother, strap that shit up, man. Strap it up. Don't be stupid, man. All right, if it's a chick you just met, I don't give a damn how good she look, man. You better strap that man's up, man. Shit, because you just know you don't know what these people got. Personally, every chick I've ever dealt with outside of the ones I was in long relationships with, I'm always putting my mans on. I always gotta put the fitted hat on. Always. I don't give a fuck, man. You're not finna burn me, bitch. Then of course you had a couple of them times, you done went in some raw shit. And I'm just being raw. You done went up in it and you dodged a bullet. You know, we had a couple of them instances, and I was like, okay, you know, this on point. I fuck with it. You know, and then, you know, you go get tested after that and you good. But this ain't them kind of days, man. Because this man has literally weaponized the most pleasurable thing known to men. Something that literally takes Jake away from reality of this wicked ass world. This man chooses to weaponize fucking what creates life, man. Because sex, not only is it pleasurable, it's supposed to be conducive to life because the scriptures say be fruitful and multiply. Okay? So anyway, this is the book of Deuteronomy 28. And I'm going to start at verses 15. It says, but it shall come to pass that if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power, and observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So ultimately, this is a curse. It says, cursed should be thou in the city, and cursed should be thou in the field. And where do most Jakes reside at? In the inner cities, the ghettos, the metropolis, right? And I'm going to go down here. 19, it says, and cursed should be thou when thou comest in, and cursed should be when thou goest out. It says, and there the Lord shall send upon thee cursing and vexation and rebuke, and all that thou settest thy hand unto for to do. It says, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. And a lot of this is coming because the Lord is bringing plagues upon the world, because this is nothing more but another plague, man. And now it's resurfacing. Because going back into, matter of fact, 2021, they said within 2 or 3 years, people was going to start to kind of show symptoms of this, you know what, you know, even to the point that people then went to the spirit world untimely. But it says Cambridge scientists admit 25% of juice people now have VAIDS. OK, hence the outbreak. OK, I do know that it is a lot of promiscuous shit going on. But these people that got this shit is spreading it to other people, man. OK, because people that didn't take the J claim that being around people or having relationships with people with the J, they ain't been the same ever since, man. And, you know, it's based on your immune system, too. If you're not putting the right foods in your body, then, you know, your body can literally succumb from anything. But overall, man, people that didn't shoot the J have reported they felt different around people that shot the J. And I got firsthand testimony of that because going back into the end of 2021, when everybody miraculously got sick, into 2022, I was around people that shot that shit. And I felt horrible, man. I was fucking feeling dizzy. You know what I'm saying? I was getting lightheaded around being around people that shot that because they had what they call protein shedding. When they were shedding this particular spike protein onto people, you know, whether it's through breath or intercourse or literally just being around or sharing the same air with people. People were spreading this shit, man. You know? And people were getting jacked up by it. Shit, I was one of them. I was getting sick because I was working around people that actually was engaging in that shit. And I was like, man, I can't do this, man. I'm just like, I just don't feel good. You know? So throughout all the detoxes and all that other stuff and changing protocols, you know, my body got back to where it needed to be. But nonetheless, it has its long-term effects because, you know, I started suffering from stomach complications like gastritis and shit out the fucking blue, which, you know, of course, it was a buildup, you know, over time, you know, as far as like, you know, sometimes drinking, and which I don't think that's what it was, but round of antibiotics and all this other stuff, man, you know, definitely had a play on it. But anyway, it says here, research scientists at the world-renowned Cambridge University in the UK have admitted that 1 in 4 juice people have now developed a chronic immune deficiency response, also known as such and such acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And I believe this is where a lot of those numbers are coming in at too. And that's the point of this article. It says, as the research findings, 25% of individuals who underwent the experimental, you know what, are now experiencing unintended immune response. It says the scientists claim that their claim in their paper that this particular unintended immune response caused by the such and such, which this is not supposed to go inside people, was generated by a glitch. It says while the Cambridge scientists in mainstream media refers to the impact on immune systems as a glitch or unintended response, experts have long been sounding the alarm about the potential effects of immune systems, man. And you know what's so crazy about it? This is why they don't have to release the information on this thing until they don't have to release the research on this. I think like what, up to 75 years or some shit. And this is why a lot of corporations have received immunity from it. Okay, because they knew the effect that it would have on people in their bodies, man. So therefore, the people that created this shit, they was immune from it, man. They got immunity from it because for the simple fact, you know, they knew. And it was all part of an experiment. That's why out of all the evidence that came out on this guy, Falsey, why in the hell is this dude not in jail? Damn, it's fucking centipedes, man. Why is he not in prison for literally killing millions of people that came down with this shit? Because the whole ordeal with the such and such, it had a 99.6% recovery rate. Only a 0.6% was fatal, and that was from elderly people, which a lot of that came out that they was really trying to do away with a lot of the elderly people because, you know, they didn't want to pay out the benefits and the Social Security and all this other shit, you know. But anyway, it says, Cambridge scientists found such juice were not perfect and sometimes led to nonsense proteins being made instead of the desired, you know what, which mimics infection and leads to antibody production. It says it was thought the minor tweak to the uridine caused no problems in cells, but a team of researchers at the University of Cambridge Medical Research Council, MRC, toxicology unit have now found when this partially synthetic code is read, the protein making machine in the body sometimes struggles with the uridine analogs, man. So basically they gave people a fucking death sentence, man. It says, however, since the publishing another article in July confirming the such and such are linked to developments of the VAIDS. But the reports from the outlet highlighted that the such and such injections have the potential to induce conditions like small fiber neuropathy and postural or aesthetic or tachycardia syndrome. But in alignment with the Cambridge study, it was revealed that the such and such generated a nonsensical and harmless protein that becomes the target of the body's attack, consequently triggering an immune system flare-up. And a lot of people have been having symptoms from this, man. You know, and this was all done to take people out, man. Hence the Georgia Guidestones. Going down, Deuteronomy 28, and I'm going to start at verses 21. It says, and the Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee. Now, when you go into the word pestilence, right? Pestilence goes into the Hebrew word, which is the bar, which means a pestilence, a plague, okay, a cattle plague, a cattle disease, murrain, which is part of the script, which is in the scriptures. It's prophetic, okay, and these are the plagues that the Lord is fighting against the wicked with. And it says here, cleave unto thee until you have consumed thee from off the land whither thou goest to possess it. And Yahweh shall smite thee with consumption and with a fever and with inflammation. And all these are symptoms of diseases in the body or autoimmune deficiencies, man. Okay, because inflammation, which is an inflammatory response, which causes the body, you know, because the body is basically telling you that there's something foreign or the body is attacking itself. So you have what they call inflammation. You know, like a lot of times women with lupus, which I believe that shit is a weapon targeted mainly to women of color. But like lupus, a lot of times women gain weight because they have an inflammatory response, which causes the body to swell up so it can protect the joints from the lupus, you know. But it says here, smite thee with the consumption and with the fever and with inflammation and with extreme burning and with the sword and with blasting and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish, right? Going back into the curses. Let me go down a little bit because the scriptures, give me 1 second because I'm just kind of all over the place with it. Just trying to get right to the point. Go down to verses 35. It says, and the Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with the sore botch that cannot be healed, and from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head. Okay, that's those plagues, man, those diseases, because Jake is all sick. Like we was at an outreach today, And Jake is sick, man. And, you know, we was passing out foods and shit. And, you know, they had little snacks and all that stuff. And Jake wanted the snacks, man. But we had potatoes, we had onions, we had carrots, we had apples, bananas. And a lot of Jakes, they just totally said, nah, we don't want that. You know, they wanted the box cookies and the Twixes and the Snickers, you know, which, hey, I like fucking chocolate just as much as the next person. But the thing is, Jake don't take care of themselves, man. You know, they wanted all the sweet shit. All the stuff with the particular chemicals in it. But when it came to the beets and the carrots and all that shit, Jake ain't want that, man. You know? And this is why our people are in the position that they're in now. Let's go down here, Deuteronomy 28 and Yep, let's start at verses 28, and I'm going to start at verses 58. And it says, and if thou wilt not observe to do all the words of this law that are written in this book, that thou mayest fear the glorious and fearful name of Yahweh thy power, then Yahweh will make thy plagues wonderful, and the plagues of thy seed, even great plagues of long continuance. And that age shit is for life, man. It says, and sore sickness of long continuance. And moreover, he will bring upon thee all the diseases of Egypt, which thou was afraid of, and shall cleave unto thee, and also every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this law, them will Yahweh bring upon thee until thou be destroyed. Right? Because like I said, their sin, Jake's sins are sins, man. So this is the reason why we go through shit like this. And also, you know, Esau adds injury to insult. You know? But a lot of it comes from what this article was talking about too, and I have to speak around it because overall, you know, they don't, you know, they still are on some folly with our videos. You know, that's why it says 50% of new women or black women HIV diagnosis among women are black women. Scary. All right, Exodus 5:3, and they say the power of the God of the Hebrews have met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto the Lord thy power, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword, man. Okay, the pestilence, the disease. Next precept, Exodus 9:15. For now I will stretch out my hand, that I may smite thee and thy people with pestilence, and thou shalt be cut off from the earth. Okay, the diseases. Leviticus 26:25. It says, and I will bring a sword upon you, and shall avenge the quarrel of my covenant. And when ye are gathered together within your cities, I will send the pestilence among you, and ye should be delivered into the hand of the enemy, man. And that's why Jake is in this captivity in the first place, and we're subjected to all these plagues because, you know, we're in the hands of our enemies. Going back into Revelation, the 6th chapter, started verses 7, and it says, when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. Now, when you think of pale, you think of death. Think of plagues, man. And the Lord showed me years ago that a plague of sickness was going to hit this place. And this was before the 2020 ordeal. You know, the Lord gave me a dream about like moths and like butterflies and shit. And the moths was more like a pale color, man. And when you look up moths in certain traditions, moths represents like good luck and life and all that other shit. But it was the color that that concerned me, man. And 2 years later, maybe a year later, the Icky Vicky came out, you know, the C19, you know, all that other stuff, you know, which represents mass judgment. And there's more to come. We ain't seen shit yet, you know. But it says, and I behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given over them, over the 4th part of the earth, which is the western hemisphere, to kill with the sword and with hunger and with death and with the beasts of the earth. And that comes in the form of these plagues as well. Okay, the Edomite is a fucking plague, man. That demon, that Edomite, that devil. All right. Anyway, a couple more precepts. Deuteronomy 28, I read that in 21. Let's go down to Jeremiah. And I'm going to start at 21 and 10, 24 and 10. It says, and I will send a sword, famine, and the pestilence among them, so they be consumed off the land that I gave unto them and their fathers. All right. And the Lord always speaks about pestilence and plagues because Jacob is just that damn wicked. Okay. Ezekiel 5 and 12, and it says, and a third part of thee should die with the pestilence and with famine, and they should be consumed in the midst of thee, and a third part shall fall by the sword round about thee, and I will scatter the third part into the winds, and I will draw out the sword after them. So I will send upon you famine and evil beasts, and they shall bereave thee. Pestilence and blood shall pass through thee, and I will bring the sword upon thee. I, the Lord, have spoken it. So these plagues are getting ready to hit on a whole different level, man. Okay, Ezekiel 7 and 15. It says, the sword is without, and a pestilence and the famine within. And he that is in the field should die with the sword, and he that is in the city, famine and pestilence shall devour him, man. All right. Ezekiel 12 and 16, it says, but I will leave a few men of them from the sword and from famine and from pestilence, that they may declare all that abominations among the heathen, whether they come, and they shall know that I am the Lord. You're that remnant. Or if I send a pestilence into that land and pour out my fury upon it in blood to cut off from it man and beast. For thus says Yahweh, how much more when I send my four sword judgments upon Jerusalem, and the sword and the famine and the noisome beasts, missiles, right? And the pestilence to cut off of it from man and beast, man. So the Heavenly Father's not playing with Jake, bro. All right. And this is why you niggas are in the position you in. We gonna keep saying that. Last precept, 2 Ezra 15 and 49, it says, and I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence to waste thy houses with destruction and death, man. All right. So anyway, man, I'm going to end it. We can go longer, but I'm going to end it here, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you were edified. To the next lesson. Shalom.
Hispanic. At number 5 is Washington, D.C. with the total. At number 4, Caucasian.
I was diagnosed with HIV a week after my 18th birthday. How did I contract HIV? So, me and a best friend of 10 plus years from middle school were living together, and she had her male best friend come over and his nephew. We would hang out a lot and kick it and stuff like that. So then me and the nephew started speaking, talking and stuff like that. We started talking for about 6 months. Then we made it official. Well, we made it official. We were on, talking for about a year. And this man was a good man for what I could think he was. I was 17, I was young and dumb. I didn't think that him going to make these runs and things like that would result in him actually doing other things. But then again, he was gone a lot because he worked in the streets, if you catch my drift. This man had no symptoms, that from what I could see. Like, we didn't live together, so we weren't always together, but he had no symptoms, like nothing. So I didn't know nothing of it. Mind you, I was tested before I got with him for everything. It was cleared. Everything was great. Everything was all right. We were living our best lives, so I thought. So about 10 months into our relationship, I started feeling like, what's he really doing? He's not giving enough attention. He's not giving, I'm getting all this attention on the side that I want from you. So I confronted him like I do, okay? It starts an argument, of course. So fast forward a little bit, we just argue. We just was arguing, was toxic, but we were still intimate, okay? So I turned 18 and decided to go donate some plasma because I was a broke hoe. And when you go donate plasma, you have to go twice to fill the entire bottle, okay? So when I went, the first time I donated, I got paid. I got my money, and I went back 2 days later. When I came back 2 days later, they pulled me into the room where they do the physicals, and they told me, you are not eligible to donate. You are a do not return because we found traces of HIV in your blood. I was astounded. So at the time, I didn't have a vehicle, and I rode the bus. So I took the bus all the way to the doctor's office, crying in disbelief. It's not true. It's not happening. So then I went 2 days later after getting tested to get my results. And they came back in with 4 doctors, thinking I already knew. And I wasn't sure if I had it or not. Next thing you know, they're like, yeah, you have it. This is a therapist if you need one. This was your med doctor. We are going to start you on medication to get your levels where they need to be. Your viral count is the next steps, is getting you on medication. Mind you, I'm in the doctor's office alone, 18, barely, and just found out I have HIV and know nothing about it. I'm thinking I'm gonna die. So fast forward to about a month later, I am undetectable.
So I was 21. It was March of 2023 when I got my last STI and HIV test, and that was negative. I had just turned 21. I was outside. I was doing my thing. No shame. It is what it is. But anyways, there's 3 people that I needed to tell from March to my diagnosis in August, and I'm gonna get into each of the people. Okay, so the first person we're gonna go back to, but the first person I met in April, and I had seen him probably once, twice a week, every week for maybe, let's say 2 months. So April, May, June, right? Okay. So the first person I had met in April, and I had been sleeping with him on and off, like just as a situationship from April to May and June, right? We'll call him Tom. And then I had met someone and like we were more serious. I was with him from June to July, but it didn't last long due to just like issues. And the third person that I needed to tell, I had been with him from July to when I had been diagnosed in August. So we'll call them 1, 2, and 3 in this scenario. So keep in mind the first person, I had been with him from April to June. And maybe April to late May, to be honest. But late June, I started to develop a fever. I had 105 fever for 7 days straight. I went to the ER and I was not tested for HIV because I didn't meet the HIV standard, which is being gay or using drugs. I'm straight. I need to emphasize that. So anyways, had 105 fever for a week straight, and after that I just got sicker and sicker and sicker, and I had been in and out of the hospitals, doctors, nobody knew what was wrong with me, right? So we get to August, I'm in the hospital, I finally figure out that I'm HIV positive. I have to make 3 different phone calls to 3 different people because I, obviously, as hard as that was, I'm not gonna not tell these people because 1, they need to protect themselves, get tested, and I don't want to put someone else at risk, and 2, I want to know who's responsible. So I give their names to the Department of Health, obviously, and then I contacted them personally because I wanted to tell them. Now, I had 3 different reactions to my diagnoses, and I'll get into that. So the first reaction, he was sympathetic, he was so kind, like nice, and he was kind of confused. Like I was like, okay, like you need to go get tested, like blah 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 blah, and he was kind of lost. Like, what does all this mean? Like, what is HIV? Like, I'm just confused. Like, he was very like kind of immature to what was going on. But I also had no clue about this before, so it was fine. I guided him in the right way. He got tested, provided me negative results. The second person was my boyfriend at the time. He treated me so bad, barely asked if I was okay when I was in the hospital, didn't check on me. When I was in the hospital, I literally had to find somewhere for him to get tested, and this man was on the phone yelling at me, talking about, oh, I don't have health insurance, and like, who's gonna pay for this? Like, it was all about him, and like him being scared. Never comforted me. Like, he was just like, God showed me that he was not meant to be my boyfriend.
I gotta stop this right here, y'all. I can't let this slide. I can't let this.
In that moment, like, we wanted to like get off the phone. I had just been stigmatized, and like, you know, it was hard. But this is what I really want to talk about. This third person, okay? This third person, one night called him and I asked him. Looking back now, at the time I had been in the hospital for literally 5 days, hadn't even seen the sunshine, so I just wanted to like get off the phone, do this conversation and get off the phone, you know. I call him and I said to him like, hi, you know, I've been diagnosed with HIV, and the first thing this man said to me was, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. What's your treatment plan? In that moment, like, we talked for a little bit after that. Like, he was like, oh, I'm here for you, blah, 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 like, XYZ. But he asked me what my treatment plan was. Why would you ask me what my treatment plan was unless you already had an understanding of HIV, right? So in the hospital, in the state that I'm in, they, the Department of Health will call you. They called me while I was in the hospital. They will call you and ask who you came into contact with, and they will ask for your sexual partner's first, last names, addresses if you have them, date of birth, whatever you have pertaining to these people, so they can, one, contact them as well and let them know, but two, like, it's a health risk. Like, these people need to be aware of my status because I came into contact with them point blank period. So I gave this information to the health department, and this third person that I asked, he was also the only person who literally could not provide me a negative test result. I asked him twice, he ignored me. He randomly disappeared in July. I started getting sick in June, and in July he randomly disappeared and moved to Texas. Like, he called me and was like, come see me, like, I'm leaving in 2 days, like, and I was like, no, I'm good, like, kind of get off that. Like, I just didn't want any parts in him at that point. And I thought it was weird that he randomly abruptly moved. Like, it was just odd. His life was so established here in Tampa, like, I didn't understand it, but I didn't think much of it because at the end of the day it didn't affect me in that moment. Later, I realized now that he's in a different state and the laws are so different, there was nothing I could do. I called lawyers, I talked to doctors, I asked so many people, like, is there anything more that I can do? And nobody could really help me. So that was really it as far as who's responsible. I don't necessarily know that he was responsible. My gut says that he was responsible, but I just, like, was kind of at odds with that, and I ultimately chose peace for my own sake, and that's my story as to who is responsible for me being diagnosed with HIV.
Apologies, y'all. I lost it for a little bit.